Hello, Green Council building members. I am so glad to be with you today. My name is Katharine Hayhoe, and I am a climate scientist and also chief scientist for the Nature Conservancy. I study how climate change is affecting us here and now in the places where we live and what we can do about it. When it comes to climate change, the two most common questions I'm asked are, where do you find hope? And what can we do about it? And I think you have the answers to both of them. Because all of the GBC meetings I have ever been at, I have seen so many examples of what we can do about climate change. Many of them I had never even heard of before myself as a climate scientist, and I am surrounded by people who are making a difference. And we know that where we find hope is when we act together. We realize that we are not alone, and what we do truly does matter. So I want to share two things with you today. Two important things that I think everyone needs to know. The first thing is this climate change thing, it's bad. It is a crisis. As far back as we can go in the history of this planet, we have never seen climate changing this fast. It is no exaggeration to say that we are conducting an unprecedented experiment with the only home we have. And if you're a human who breathes the air and drinks the water and eats the food and uses the materials that come from this planet, and I think that includes pretty much everyone on this planet, that means you have every reason you need to care about climate change. When it comes to this issue, many people refer to it as global warming, but I prefer to call it global weirding. Because climate change is loading the weather dice against us, making our weather weirder wherever we live. We see that the heat wave season is getting longer and individual heat waves are much stronger and more dangerous. We see that heavy downpours are increasing. Hurricanes, cyclones, typhoons are getting stronger. Wildfires are burning greater area. Wherever we look, the number of costly weather and climate disasters is on the rise. And we care about that because that affects us, our health, our food, our water, and the built environment. We see that insurance rates are skyrocketing. Some companies are dropping coverage in areas, including many areas of the United States where I live. We're seeing massive increase in the cost of restoring and replacing infrastructure that's damaged by these extreme events. Roads melting in the heat, homes overheating, power grids browning or even blacking out. All of our infrastructure, our entire built environment, was built for a planet that no longer exists. And this puts us all at risk. But I don't want to stop there, because there's a second important thing you need to know. And that second important thing is there are solutions, big solutions. And you have an essential role to play in those solutions. You probably already know that buildings represent over a third of energy and process-related carbon emissions. And you know that we need to massively increase the investment in net zero buildings, tripling it in order to meet the IEA's 2030 net zero goals. We can do it, not through any silver bullet. There's no one solution that if we implement it will fix everything. But rather, there's what I think of as silver buckshot, many different little pieces of solutions that when we add them all up, give us more than enough of what we need to take us to net zero and beyond. These solutions fall into three major categories, and I like to think of them as different pieces of a swimming pool. Let me explain. If you think of the swimming pool as the atmosphere, and the level of water in the swimming pool is the level of heat-trapping gases in the atmosphere. Before the Industrial Revolution, we had just the right amount of water in our pool, so our toes could just touch the bottom. But at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, we put a giant hose in our pool, and we've been turning it up every year. The first year of the pandemic, we turned it down 7%, and then we turned it right back up again. So what's the first thing we have to do? The first thing we have to do is turn off the hose. How? Through efficiency, clean energy, behavioral change, creating buildings that don't need fossil fuels to keep us warm and to keep the lights on at night. Our pool, though, also has a drain, and that drain is nature. Nature can take out up to a third of the carbon emissions that we produce, and there's so much room for nature in our built environment. from gardens and green spaces in neighborhoods that filter the air and provide cooling protection during heat waves and soak up the water during heavy rainfall events, to innovative approaches from green roofs to green walls. Nature is our friend, and it has a huge role to play in the urban environment. Lastly, though, the water in the pool is so high that we have to teach people how to swim. That's adaptation and resilience. That's making sure that the buildings that we build and that we retrofit are suited for this changing world, can cope with the extremes that are coming at us, can keep our families safe. Turning off the hose, making the drain bigger, and teaching people how to swim, those are the three things that we can all do. Because I know that although we can't fix climate change alone, I'm convinced that we can do it together. Thank you.